Before going to bed, Yoon Shuoro checked her phone as usual to handle work matters when suddenly a friend request popped up on WeChat. Yoon Shuoro opened it and saw it was from Lee Si-han. Upon closer inspection of the man's profile picture, it turned out to be a photo of Xiaoyu and Xiaomo from the amusement park that day. Yoon Shuoro had no idea what this man was up to, but she gritted her teeth and went along with it. Chapter 11. It overturned her previous impression of him. What's with the profile picture? Yoon Shuoro's own WeChat profile picture was a photo of herself with her 2 children. With Lee Si-han's move, others might mistake it for a family of 4. Lee Si-han held his phone, a smile playing at the corners of his lips. He could almost picture the woman's helpless expression at that moment. It's nothing. I just find it very heartwarming. This was the truth. The absence of his parents during childhood had always left a sense of regret in his heart. Yoon Shuoro was taken aback, not expecting the man to respond this way. Miss Yoon, I wonder if you still remember tomorrow's banquet. I'll pick you up at 8 a.m. The evening gown is already prepared. Yoon Shuoro pursed her lips. Remember, I'll cooperate with you tomorrow. It's just a simple transaction. After all, only this once. Surely no one would misunderstand. Yoon Shuoro silently comforted herself with these thoughts. Good night, to avoid the man saying anything more. Yoon Shuoro quickly sent a good night back and immediately turned off the light, closing her eyes to sleep. On the other end, Lee Si-han held his phone and waited for 2 minutes. When no more messages appeared on the WeChat interface, he also turned off the light. The next morning, Yoon Shuoro woke up a bit late. Just as she got up, she heard the doorbell ring. Assuming it was the newly hired nanny, Yoon Shuoro opened the door without a second thought when she saw the man's face outside the door. Yoon Shuoro froze. Lee Si-han, why are you here? Yoon Shuoro's voice was heard by the 2 little ones in the room, who came running over in a hurry without even changing their clothes. Daddy Xiaoyu was wearing pajamas covered in Ultraman prints, his little belly round and chubby, with sleep marks still visible on his plump cheeks. Uncle Xiaomo appeared calm, but his eyes sparkled as he blinked up at the man. Yoon Shuoro gently patted Xiaoyu's bottom. No shouting. Always calling Lee Si-han daddy. Then who does that make her? And it might cause misunderstandings among others. It's fine. They can call me whatever they like. Lee Si-han crouched down and patted the children's heads. Hearing this, the 2 children immediately brightened up, especially Xiaoyu, who happily hugged Lee Si-han's leg and called out loudly, Daddy Tilda. Yes, my good child. Xiaomo, Xiaoyu, did you eat well? The 2 little ones nodded in unison. We ate this much. Xiaoyu drew a big watermelon shape in the air with both hands. Daddy, have you had breakfast? Can you join us for breakfast? Xiaomo looked at the man with hope in his eyes. Yay, Daddy is going to eat with us. Xiaoyu, on the other hand, happily ran to the table to fetch his own portion of breakfast. It included his favorite ham and fried eggs. Yoon Shuoro hadn't expected things to turn out this way. She could only watch helplessly as the man walked past her and confidently took a seat at the dining table. Hypocritical man. Yoon Shuoro gritted her teeth. If he loves being a father so much, why doesn't he have his own child? All he does is focus on her kid, she had to admit. Yoon Shuoro was feeling a bit jealous. Daddy, try this fried egg, it's really delicious. Mommy made it with love. And eating it will make you happy all day Tilda. Xiaomo picked up a fried egg from his own bowl and placed it in the man's bowl. Lee Si-han wore a smile on his face as he looked up at the woman sitting across from him, indeed noticing her cheeks slightly flushed as she shyly averted her gaze. This little rascal. Yoon Shuoro muttered to herself. What heart-shaped fried egg. It was just a trick she used to coax the child into eating eggs, now that the child had blurted it out in front of the man. She couldn't help but feel a bit embarrassed. Have a fried dough stick. To prevent the children from revealing all her secrets, Yoon Shuoro quickly picked up a fried dough stick and placed it in the children's bowls. Seeing this, Xiaoyu immediately hugged his bowl and frowned at Yoon Shuoro. Mommy, why didn't you give one to Daddy? Daddy wants one too. He finally has a father, and that's how it's always shown on TV. Daddy and Mommy should feed each other too. Little Mo chimed in. Great. Yoon Shuoro felt her vision darken. She had dug her own grave this time. Yoon Shuoro felt somewhat awkward. She had never been this intimate with a man before, even if the man across from her was the father her two little rascals had claimed as their own. Lee Si-han noticed a hint of panic on Yoon Shuoro's face for the first time. Completely unlike her usual composed self in public, she appears calm and decisive outside, strictly businesslike, but now she is full of life, seeming even more vibrant. Just as Yoon Shuoro was at a loss for what to do, a fried egg and a fried dough stick suddenly appeared in the bowl before her. "Alright, I've already served mommy, now eat quickly." Yoon Shuoro was taken aback. Raising her head, she saw the man speaking softly to the two little ones with his face turned slightly. The golden sunlight streamed through the window into the room, and the man was as gentle as water, his narrow peach blossom eyes filled with a smile. This scene was exactly the same as the one in Yoon Shuoro's dream. "Mommy, I'm done eating. I'm taking my little brother to school now," Xiaomo said, holding his younger brother's chubby little hand. Yoon Shuoro handed the two little ones backpacks to the nanny. "Be good in class, okay?" After speaking, he bent down and kissed each of the two buns on the face. "Daddy, I want 1 2 tilde." Xiaoyu and Xiaomo simultaneously looked up at the man standing beside their mommy. Lee Si-han smiled and, under the children's gaze, bent down to plant a kiss on each of their foreheads. "Mommy, Daddy, goodbye tilde." The two little ones waved and boarded the school bus. Only when the children's figures disappeared into the distance did Yoon Shuoro finally let out a sigh of relief. She turned around and glared at the man, gritting her teeth. "Lee Si-han, you did this on purpose." Yoon Shuoro didn't hesitate to call out the man's full name, causing the secretary standing nearby to tremble with fear. Aside from the master and mistress of the house, she was the first woman who dared to address President Lee by his full name. Lee Si-han looked completely unfazed, shrugging his shoulders as he gazed at the woman with a mocking expression. "Miss Yoon, what are you talking about? I don't understand." Yoon Shuoro never expected the man to be so shameless, completely overturning her previous impression of him. Shameless. "Miss Yoon can say whatever she likes, but I believe you haven't forgotten about attending the Lee family's banquet, have you?" Lee Si-han stared at Yoon Shuoro, not missing a single expression on her face. As expected, a twitch appeared at the corner of Yoon Shuoro's previously calm lips. How had she never noticed before just how thick-skinned this man could be? Gritting her teeth, she replied, "I haven't forgotten." Lee Si-han turned to look at his secretary, who immediately understood his meaning. "Miss Yoon, please wait a moment. The evening gown will arrive shortly." In less than a minute, a group of people suddenly appeared in her home carrying a row of clothes. The makeup artist asked respectfully, "Miss Yoon, what kind of makeup look would you like today?" Lee Si-han sat naturally on the sofa, as if he were the master of the house, exuding a powerful aura that made people unconsciously lower their voices. Chapter 12. So her son was suffering from unrequited love. Yoon Shuoro chose a subtle and elegant makeup look. After all, it was a family banquet, so the makeup shouldn't be too flashy. Fresh and understated would suffice. Yoon Shuoro sat on the chair, facing the mirror as she let the makeup artist apply her makeup. Yet even with her eyes closed, Yoon Shuoro could still feel the man's sharp gaze lingering on her. Lee Si-han raised his eyes, his narrow peach blossom eyes brimming with intense interest as Yoon Shuoro's makeup was completed. His well-defined fingers toying with a vintage lighter, a sapphire blue flame cast a dazzling glow beneath the man's shadow. As the man's gaze pierced through once more, Yoon Shuoro could bear it no longer. She exhaled sharply and was about to stand up. The man on the sofa suddenly rose and slowly strode over to her. The man was tall, standing a full head above Yoon Shuoro's 1.65-meter height. Very beautiful. The man's deep, mellow voice came through as he raised his hand to tuck a stray lock of hair behind her fragrant shoulder. His movement was too quick, so quick that she had no time to stop him. Yoon Shuoro turned her face slightly, her cheeks tinged with a faint blush, not daring to meet the man's gaze. Yoon Shuoro didn't know what to say either, and the atmosphere between them felt somewhat strange. "All right, let's go. My grandmother will probably like you very much, in the end." It was Lee Si-han who broke the odd silence. Yoon Shuoro looked at herself in the mirror. The woman wore a white Chanel-style dress, her dark hair elegantly tied up, her face exquisitely delicate and understated. A light shade of lipstick adorned her lips, and pearl earrings sparkled with tiny glimmers in the sunlight. Yoon Shuoro pressed her lips together slightly and looked up at Lee Si-han. Let's go. A black extended luxury car was already parked at the villa's entrance. Lester Han gentlemanly opened the car door for her. Once inside the car, Yoon Shuoro instinctively sat as far away from him as possible. Miss Yoon, do we need to be so distant? The man's voice was calm and unhurried. No, not unfamiliar. Yoon Shuoro felt somewhat awkward. Not expecting the man to speak so bluntly, Lee Si-han extended his hand. Looking at her, Yoon Shuoro understood and slowly placed her fair hand on the man's muscular arm. Before she could react, the man suddenly exerted force. Yoon Shuoro let out a muffled groan as she seemed to have collided with the man's chest. When she opened her eyes again, there was only a fist's distance between her and the man, so close that she could almost clearly feel his scorching breath spraying against her neck, sending faint tremors through her. Yoon Shuoro didn't know if the man did it on purpose, but now she could only stay quietly and securely in his embrace. 10 minutes later, the black Cullinan stopped in front of a villa at the foot of the mountain. The villa stretched as far as the eye could see, with neatly trimmed lawns faintly visible in the distance. The small white Western-style house was covered in ivy, and the iron gate was meticulously adorned with pink rose bushes. A gentle breeze carried the fragrance of flowers. A butler in a Zhongshan suit was already waiting at the gate. Mr. Lee, you're back. Madam is waiting for you inside. The butler respectfully opened the car door. Lee Si-han helped Yoon Shuoro out of the car. How is Grandma? Is she doing well? The old madam has been in good health recently. Upon hearing of your visit today, she specifically instructed the kitchen to prepare your and Miss Yoon's favorite dishes. The butler led the way ahead. Si-han, you're finally back. And Ching stepped forward, pausing in surprise at the sight of Yoon Shuoro beside Lee Si-han. Then her face blossomed into a smile. Taking Yoon Shuoro's hand warmly, she said, your name is Shuoro, right? Such a lovely name. I can tell at a glance that you and my son make a perfect match. Yoon Shuoro was somewhat surprised. This was her first time meeting the legendary Madam and a successful businesswoman in her own right. Auntie, hello. Have we met before? Yoon Shuoro asked curiously. After all, and Ching is known as the Iron Lady to the outside world, not someone easy to talk to. And Ching now wishes she could immediately pack up her son and send him to Yoon Shuoro. Oh, you have no idea. Last time in Si-han's office, I saw a photo. Mom. Lee Si-han cut in at the right moment, clearing his throat slightly with some awkwardness, and Ching paused for a moment, her gaze shifting between her son and Yoon Shuoro, and immediately understood. Her son was suffering from unrequited love. It seemed the girl was unaware of the underlying situation. Well, never mind. Her son had grown up and now cared about saving face. Oh, why am I talking about all this? Come, let's eat. Your grandmother misses you dearly and has been waiting for you for a long time. And Ching warmly took Yoon Shuoro's hand and led her into the living room. Lee Si-han, who was forced to stay behind. Is this really my own mother? She wants the daughter-in-law but not her own son. Yoon Shuoro glanced back at Lee Si-han's aggrieved expression and couldn't help but smile faintly. It was the first time she'd seen a man with such an expression. Upon entering the living room, Yoon Shuoro finally saw Elder Lee. Seated on the sofa was an elderly woman with snow-white hair. Though her face was lined with wrinkles, she was impeccably groomed from head to toe, radiating vitality. The old woman gazed at Yoon Shuoro kindly and beckoned to her. You must be Shuoro, right? Come closer and let this old lady have a look at you. At first sight, Yoon Shuoro felt an inexplicable closeness to Elder Lee. The old man's hand was warm and strong. Oh, what a pretty young lady. It's a Han's good fortune to have you as his girlfriend. Old Mrs. Lee felt an instant fondness for this girl the first time she saw her. She had a good eye for people. This girl carried a resilient spirit, just like she had in her youth. Thank you, Grandma. Si-han is wonderful too. Yoon Shuoro leaned against the man's shoulder, her face wearing just the right amount of happiness. Lee Si-han lowered his head, his narrow eyes reflecting the woman's shy expression. The golden sunlight shone in the woman's pure pupils, emitting tiny starlight that made him unable to resist drowning in them. Old Mrs. Lee saw her grandson staring at Yoon Shuoro with his head lowered, his icy expression making it impossible to tell what he was thinking at the moment, and immediately became furious. "You mischievous monkey, what kind of face are you making in front of Shuoro? Smile, old Mrs." Lee was so angry that she hit him with the shoe cushion she was sitting on. "You little rascal, you didn't force Shuoro to come, did you, old Mrs.?" Lee narrowed her eyes. Though she's aged, her mind remains sharp. Recently, she'd been listening to a domineering CEO novel where the male lead forced the heroine to pretend to be his girlfriend to fool the old lady. She wasn't about to fall for that trick. Yoon Shuoro instinctively defended the man. "Grandma, don't be angry, Sihan and I are truly in love. That's why we're together." With that, she gave the man a loving glance. Meeting the woman's gaze, Lee Sihan's eyes flickered slightly. Seeing this, old Madam Lee finally set her worries aside and, as if performing a magic trick, produced an ancient box from behind her. "Shuoro, now that you're with a Han, our Lee family mustn't treat you poorly. This is a bracelet passed down from our ancestors, and today I'm giving it to you." Chapter 13. Who Says My Son Is Gay? The emerald bracelet emitted a soft glow under the sunlight, steeped in endless years. The bracelet had been passed down from the Qing dynasty, of exceptional quality with excellent translucency, and one could tell at a glance that it was worth a fortune. "Grandma, this is too much," Yoon Shuoro hastily declined. Such a valuable item, she couldn't accept it casually, especially since she was merely Lee Sai's holiday girlfriend. It was even more inappropriate to take it. "Old Mrs." Lee wouldn't take no for an answer. Grabbing Yoon Shuoro's hand, she decisively slipped the bracelet onto her wrist without giving her a chance to refuse. Yoon Shuoro tried to pull her hand back, but the old lady's grip was surprisingly strong. A slight tug didn't free her. The old lady cheerfully fastened the bracelet in place. When she looked up, her gaze happened to meet her grandson's calm, unreadable eyes. "Oh no, this is bad. Could my feigned illness be exposed?" The old lady was startled and quickly let go, clutching her chest while coughing. "Cough, cough, cough. I don't know what's wrong, but I suddenly feel weak." At this moment, old Mrs. Lee reverted to her previous frail and sickly appearance. Lee Sihan watched his grandmother's performance and sighed inwardly. "Oh well, what's the harm in indulging the old lady?" At the dining table, Yoon Shuoro and Lee Sihan sat beside the elderly lady, while An Qing sat next to her husband. "Darling, have a piece of your favorite sweet and sour fish," Li Haotian eagerly served his wife. "This morning, I didn't even have time to kiss my wife when I woke up." Seeing this, old Mrs. Lee narrowed her eyes, glared at Lee Sihan, and coughed pointedly. Lee Sihan understood and also picked up a shrimp. Yoon Shuoro thought the man would place the shrimp in her bowl, but to her surprise, the chopsticks stopped right in front of her mouth. "Lee Sihan," Yoon Shuoro cursed inwardly, but still put on a bashful expression and ate the shrimp from the man's chopsticks. Old Mrs. Lee, standing nearby, felt immediately satisfied upon seeing this. Yoon Shuoro gritted her teeth, then suddenly shifted her gaze to a plate of bamboo shoots in front of her. Having heard that Lee Sihan particularly disliked bamboo shoots, Yoon Shuoro didn't hesitate to pick up a piece. "Darling, how does it taste? Is it good?" The woman's slender, pale hand held chopsticks and brought them to his lips. Lee Sihan lowered his head, his narrow eyes meeting the woman's cunning gaze. Secretly amused, he bent down and ate the bamboo shoot from Yoon Shuoro's chopsticks. He ate it. Yoon Shuoro, Lee Sihan successfully saw shock and disdain in the woman's eyes. "That's right, disdain." Lee Sihan's mood instantly soured. Did this woman really despise him that much? "Shuoro, give me another piece, I really like it." Lee Sihan's lips curled into a smile, but for some reason, Yoon Shuoro could see flames of anger in the man's calm eyes. Yoon Shuoro had no choice but to impassively serve him another piece. The relationship between the two was unknown to outsiders. In the eyes of old Mrs. Lee and An Qing, this was simply the scene of young love. An Qing, who said my son is gay. My son clearly likes women. Old Mrs. Lee, I'm finally going to have a grandchild. Lee Haotian, that embarrassing nuisance is finally married off. Each of the three had their own thoughts. But Lee Sihan, kept in the dark, remained unaware. Just then, A servant hurried down the stairs. "Madam, the old master," he said. The servant kept his head bowed, not daring to look up. Old Lady Lee slammed her chopsticks down with a thud. "What on earth is going on? What scheme is that old fool up to again?" The old master said that if Miss Yoon doesn't go up to see him, he won't acknowledge her status. Old Lady Lee snorted coldly. "Who does he think he is? What right does he have to demand Xueru go see him? Doesn't he have his precious lover? Why come and trouble us? But, tell him, if he doesn't behave, get out of the Lee family." Old Madam Lee was swift and decisive. The servant immediately dared not say another word and hurried upstairs to relay the message to the old master. Old Madam Lee turned her face, her expression softening into a smile again. "Xuero, don't be afraid, let's eat." Yoon Xuero still admired this little old lady before her, as if she could see boundless strength emanating from her. After lunch, Lee Si-han left with Yoon Xuero, who would have thought they'd run into when shooting right at the entrance of the Lee family's estate. Lee Si-han, who is this woman?" When shooting stormed forward, glaring at Yoon Xuero with hostility. Her gaze was fixed so intensely on the woman's wrist resting on Lee Si-han's arm that it seemed capable of burning a hole through it. "You vile woman, let go of your hand." When shooting rushed forward, trying to pull Yoon Xuero's hand away, Yoon Xuero still remembered how when shooting had pinched the two little buns last time. Perfect timing, new and old scores to settle together. Yoon Xuero's previously disgusted expression instantly transformed into one of bashful timidity as she timidly hid behind the man. "Si-han, who is she?" Lee Si-han's eyebrows twitched as he looked at the woman behind him with amusement. Though he knew she was acting, for some reason, he still felt a sense of satisfaction. He naturally reached out and tightly grasped the woman's slender hand. The man's palm was scorching hot. Yoon Xuero pursed her lips uncomfortably, trying to pull her hand away, but he suddenly tightened his grip, holding her hand so firmly she couldn't move an inch. When shooting was fuming inside, she stepped forward in a flash. "You vixen, all you know is how to seduce men. Si-han, do you know, 3 years ago, this woman was so shameless she slept with another man." When shooting pointed at Yoon Xuero's nose, a triumphant expression on her face. Now that brother Si-han knows the true nature of this woman, he'll surely make Yoon Xuero pay. But the imagined scene did not unfold. The man before her seemed to harbor a storm in his eyes. His sharply defined profile as cold as ice, and the aura emanating from him sent chills down one's spine. When shooting met the man's gaze and instinctively stepped back, but it was already too late. Lee Si-han stepped forward, his icy fingers gripping when shooting's wrist tightly before throwing her aside with brutal force. "Watch your fingers, if you dare point one more time, I can't guarantee they'll still be there tomorrow." When shooting shrank back in fear, quickly clutching her own fingers. "Si-han, I'm telling the truth, don't let this bitch deceive you." Yoon Xuero had played her part long enough. Her expression turned cold as she slowly stepped forward. When shooting, "Was it this finger you used to touch my 2 children last time?" When shooting blinked and instantly realized, "So those 2 fatherless bastards are yours." Yoon Xuero ignored her and directly raised her hand to slap her hard across the face. "Ah!" When shooting let out a scream, covering her face as she fell to the ground. Yoon Xuero felt not an ounce of sympathy for the woman before her. Last time, this very woman had dug her long manicured nails into Xiaoyu and Xiaomo's arms, leaving bruises and even breaking the skin. The marks still hadn't healed to this day. Chapter 14. Men are all cold-blooded creatures. When shooting ever suffered such humiliation in the Guan family? At the Guan family, even Guan Yao, the true heiress of the Guan family, had to defer to her. What right did a fake heiress abandoned by the Yoon family have to hit her? She wasn't even worthy of tying her shoelaces. "Yoon Xuero, you bitch." When shooting was so furious that she went berserk, scrambling to her feet and grabbing her bag before charging toward Yoon Xuero, she raised her hand, her freshly done manicure gleaming with a cold, icy light under the sun. Just as her hand was about to descend, when shooting's hand suddenly froze mid-air. "Brother Si-han." When shooting looked at Lee Si-han with an expression of utter disbelief. Although her private relationship with Lee Si-han was nothing special, thanks to the Guan family's connection, she could at least frequently visit the CEO's office of Tianhuai Group to see him. This alone made countless socialites in the capital green with envy. When shooting, "You've crossed the line. Have you forgotten what I said last time?" The man disdainfully threw her hand away. While his secretary quickly handed him a handkerchief, Li Sihan took it and meticulously wiped his hands clean, as if they had been tainted by something filthy. When shooting was deeply wounded by the scene before her, what did all these years of unrequited love mean in Li Sihan's eyes? The woman's sharp, hate-filled gaze was fixed intently on Yun Shuoro, but she couldn't care less. She hadn't done anything wrong. If anyone was at fault, it was this man. Yun Shuoro glanced sideways at the man beside her and noticed he remained completely unmoved by Wen Shooting's desperate confession. As expected, men are all cold-blooded creatures. Li Sihan was unaware that Yun Shuoro had labeled him as cold-blooded, seeing the woman still sobbing before him. Li Sihan felt irritated. "Uncle Tai, help me throw this woman out. I don't want to see her again." When Shooting's face instantly turned pale, she crawled forward and grabbed the man's pant leg. Crying hysterically, "Sihan, you can't treat me like this. If you do this to me, old Lady Guan won't let you off." The man, who had been about to leave, suddenly stopped in his tracks. He turned around and sneered, "And who is this old Lady Guan? Do I need to give her face?" When Shooting trembled all over, looking at the man before her in disbelief, she simply couldn't believe that Li Sihan wouldn't even give old Lady Guan face. "Let go of me." Li Sihan shot a disgusted glance at the woman's hand clutching his pant leg. He had already secretly decided to throw these pants away as soon as he got back. Had enough of watching. Yun Shuoro was standing behind the man, enjoying the spectacle, still not satisfied with what she'd seen. The man's cold voice suddenly reached her ears. Oh, I'm coming." Yun Shuoro's face showed the awkwardness of being caught red-handed. Li Sihan took Yun Shuoro's hand and led her away from the troublesome scene, leaving Wen Shooting behind screaming in frustration. Yun Shuoro was pulled along by the man's hand. She initially wanted to pull away, but after stealing a glance at him, she noticed his furrowed brows, icy expression, and the bone-chilling coldness radiating from his entire being. Instantly, Yun Shuoro silently closed her mouth and allowed the man to lead her away by the hand, even after returning to the car. Li Sihan still held Yun Shuoro's hand tightly in his. "Sorry, I didn't handle today's situation well. I promise you won't encounter Wen Shooting at the Li family again in the future." The man's firm voice suddenly came through. Li Sihan didn't know why, but he suddenly wanted to explain everything that had just happened. However, he seemed to lack the appropriate standing to do so, which made his expression somewhat awkward. The driver sitting in the front seat was secretly surprised. This was the first time President Li had ever been so patient in explaining matters of the heart to a woman. The driver had initially wanted to continue enjoying the gossip, but as soon as he looked up, he happened to meet the man's icy gaze in the rearview mirror. The driver, almost immediately, the driver pressed the lift button. Li Sihan tugged at his tie, cleared his throat, and looked somewhat uneasy. "Shuoro, Wen Shooting and I aren't like what you thought before. Listen to me. No need to explain anything to me." Yun Shuoro closed her eyes, her expression indifferent. Even the slowest to react would have realized after this morning's events that Li Sihan treated Yun Shuoro differently. But she didn't need this kind of special treatment. She didn't care about love. "Mr. Li and I merely have a transactional relationship. You're the employer, and I'm the hired help. Today's family banquet was my last act of cooperation, and our contract has now concluded." Yun Shuoro gazed calmly at the man. Li Sihan was taken aback, swallowing the words he had intended to say. Meeting the woman's sharp gaze, Li Sihan finally realized she was serious. With this realization, the fire in his heart suddenly cooled. Indeed, even before meeting her, he should have known this woman wasn't one to be confined by love. She possessed a captivating determination and charm, whether in work or in the role of a mother. He felt admiration for her. He asked himself, the reason he was instantly captivated by Yun Shuoro at first sight was precisely because she possessed these qualities. Now, he couldn't let her accept his feelings just because he had different emotions toward her. "Miss Yun is right. I was being presumptuous. The man immediately reverted to the stern CEO known to the outside world, exuding an aura of coldness and detachment. Yunshuoro breathed a sigh of relief. For her now, love was nothing but a burden. She had once believed in love too, which was why she got engaged to Jiang Jinyan. But in the end, all it left her with was an unplanned pregnancy, a former lover who personally called off the engagement, and the sight of him ending up with her own sister. This twisted version of love left her utterly exhausted. The stretch limousine raced down the highway. At some point, a light drizzle had begun to fall from the sky. The temperature has also dropped. Yunshuoro rubbed the tip of her nose and sneezed instinctively. Li Sihan's fingers twitched slightly. At this moment, he wanted to hold the woman in his arms, but he couldn't do so. The atmosphere in the car was somewhat silent. Li Sihan slightly lowered his eyes, his dark pupils holding an inscrutable expression, while Yunshuoro beside him crossed her arms and turned her face to gaze at the rain outside the window, just as Yunshuoro was idly counting the distance. A sudden weight fell on her shoulder, followed by the man's scorching body heat. Looking down, Yunshuoro saw it was the man's discarded suit jacket, perhaps freshly removed. She could still distinctly catch the scent of green bamboo from the jacket, along with the man's unique fragrance, much like his presence. Overwhelmingly strong and impossible to ignore. "Thank you, Mr. Lee." Yunshuoro nodded at the man. "I'll return it to you after I wash it when I get back." Li Sihan gave an indifferent nod. "As you wish, Miss Yun." Chapter 15. Daddy Tilda, I miss you. The silence in the car was suddenly broken by the ringing of a phone. Yunshuoro looked at the incoming call notification. It was Xiaoyu and Xiaomo calling. Glancing at the time, it was already 4 p.m., their usual time after school. "Hello, Xiaoyu, Xiaomo. Mommy is currently handling some matters with Uncle Lee and will be home a little later," she said. Hearing the voices of her two little darlings, Yunshuoro couldn't help but smile. Li Sihan watched silently, feeling a slight stir in his heart. "Mommy, are you really with Uncle Lee? I want to talk to him, Tilda." On the other end of the phone, Xiaoyu held the phone with his chubby little hands, cooing at Yunshuoro, though Xiaomo appeared indifferent beside him. His ears subtly twitched toward Xiaoyu's direction. The chubby little boy's voice was rather loud, especially noticeable in the quiet car. The man sitting beside her clearly heard. And Yunshuoro looked somewhat awkwardly at him, initially wanting to cover the phone. "It's fine, let me talk to Xiaoyu." The man's steady voice suddenly came from beside her. Xiaoyu's ears were sharp, and even over the phone, she could hear Li Sihan's voice. "Daddy Tilda, I miss you." Little Yu bounced excitedly on the other end of the phone, her round little tummy trembling slightly. Beside her, Xiaomo also heard Li Sihan's voice, and a smile appeared on his usually cool face. "Uncle Lee, Tilda." It was Xiaomo's voice. The little boy's voice was soft and fluffy, making anyone who heard it unconsciously feel their heart melt. The driver stole a glance in the rearview mirror and saw that the man's entire demeanor had changed. The icy aura that had previously kept strangers at bay was now replaced by a barely perceptible smile on his cold face. These two young masters are truly remarkable, capable of making President Lee's expression change instantly, it must be said. The driver's observational skills were sharp. Li Sihan's mood was indeed quite good at the moment. "Xiaoyu, Xiaomo, are you back from school? I'm with your mommy now, you'll get to see her soon." Li Sihan completely understood children's dependence on their mothers. But the two little ones on the other end of the phone were no ordinary children. The two little rascals exchanged glances, their grape-like eyes blinking. Xiaomo leaned close to his younger brother's ear and whispered a few words. His eyes filled with cunning. "Little brother, Mommy must have gone on a date with Uncle Lee. Don't we want Uncle Lee to be our daddy?" Xiaoyu immediately nodded earnestly, obediently following his brother's words. "Yeah, we're going to make Uncle Lee our daddy." Two little buns were whispering and scheming quietly. While Yunshuoro on the other end of the phone listened to their murmuring voices, her curiosity piqued. These two troublemakers, I wonder what they're plotting again. Yunshuoro thought, both amused and exasperated. A mother knows her own sons. Though they may look innocent, they're actually quite cunning, always brewing mischief in their little minds. Even she, their own mother, sometimes falls for their tricks. Uncle Lee, are you dating my mommy?" After discussing between themselves, the two brothers asked Lee Si-han in unison. Faced with such a straightforward question, even the man who was adept in business battles was momentarily stunned. "Daddy is silent," Xiao Yu said with a bitter look at his older brother. Little Mo patted his head. "Silence means consent. Uncle Lee is just embarrassed. After all, Mommy is so beautiful, and the line of people who used to chase her stretched all the way to France. Perfect." Both little buns unanimously agreed that Lee Si-han's silence was tacit approval, a sign of shyness, so Little Mo generously waved his small hand. "Don't worry, Uncle Lee, we'll lend you Mommy for one day, just today, okay any longer." And he and his little brother would start missing Mommy. Lee Si-han, Yunshuero, heh, thank you very much. Lee Si-han coughed lightly, looking somewhat awkward, but seeing the embarrassed expression on Yunshuero's face, he suddenly felt a bit pleased, but as for what exactly he was pleased about, even he didn't know at that moment. Xiaomo, will be home soon, Lee Si-han explained gently. "Ah, okay then, Mommy and Uncle Lee, come back early. The phone immediately carried the dejected voices of the two little ones. Xiao Yu patted his round belly disappointedly and pouted. "Brother when will Uncle Lee become our daddy?" Xiao Mo frowned, holding her little brother's hand to comfort him. "Don't worry, Uncle Lee will definitely become our daddy." The car drove for half an hour before finally stopping in front of Yunshuero's villa. "Thank you, Mr. Lee, good night." Yunshuero got out of the car. Looking at the man sitting inside through the window, it must be said, Lee Si-han indeed has the charm to attract women. Just sitting there alone, he exudes a powerful aura. His posture is upright, the tailored suit fitting perfectly on his body, outlining the contours of his muscles. The stray hair in front of his forehead falls over his eyebrows, and his dark pupils give a deep, affectionate impression when looking at you from afar. Lee Si-han lifted his eyes, giving a deep glance at the woman who was polite yet distant, his voice calm. "Good night, Miss Yoon." Since the other party had clearly rejected him, it wouldn't be appropriate to persist any further. The car started, and Yunshuero watched it gradually drive away before turning around to head home. As soon as she opened the car door, she saw two small light bulbs neatly placed on the windowsill. It was Xiao Yu and Xiaomo lying on the windowsill. "Mommy, are you and Uncle Lee dating?" Xiaomo rubbed his chin thoughtfully. The little sidekick Xiao Yu also nodded along with her brother. "Yeah, Mommy, is Uncle Lee going to become me and Gij's daddy soon?" Yunshuero sighed, crouched down, and looked at the children seriously, gently patting their little heads. "Mommy and Uncle Lee can never be together. Can you promise not to joke like this anymore?" She didn't want to think about love right now, and the reality was staring her in the face. Even if Lee Si-han truly liked her, how long could such shallow affection last? Hearing such an answer, the two little ones visibly looked heartbroken. "All right, Yunshuero patted Xiao Yu's head. "Okay, it's bedtime now. If you don't sleep soon, you won't grow tall." "Ah, then my brother and I will go to sleep now, so we can grow up quickly and protect Mommy in the future." Xiao Mo held his younger brother's hand and went to the bedroom. Watching the two brothers walk away, Yunshuero finally let out a sigh of relief. Imperial Capital Bar. "Her, Assistant Zhong, what are you doing here?" Ji Ling-chen looked at Assistant Zhong in surprise. "President Ji." Assistant Zhong nervously wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. "President Lee is inside drinking. How unusual. A man who wouldn't touch a drop of alcohol in 100 years has actually come to a bar to drink today, breaking all precedents." Chapter 16. "I think I've fallen for someone. President Ji, could you please go and persuade President Lee? There's an important group meeting tomorrow morning that he absolutely cannot miss." Assistant Zhong looked at Ji Ling-chen with a pitiful expression. The man's standard peach blossom eyes twinkled as he snapped his fingers. "Leave it to me, ha ha ha." Being able to witness Lee Si-han's embarrassment naturally pleased him immensely. How could he possibly miss such a golden opportunity? Ji Ling-chen was dressed in a flashy red leather jacket, sporting white hair and a silver skull necklace around his neck, with hip-hop pants completing the look. It was as if he had "I'm cool, don't mess with me" written all over his face. "Master Ji, "You're here." The underling saw Ji Ling Chen and casually tossed him a bottle of cocktail. "Yeah. Just came to check things out." Ji Ling Chen had one hand in his pocket while raising the other to catch the bottle. The movements were clean and crisp, with such effortless ease that it easily gave the illusion that anyone could do it too. Ji Ling Chen's peach blossom eyes swept across the booth, then flicked upward in a classic glance, spotting a man's back in a corner on the second floor. Seeing his target, Ji Ling Chen whistled cheerfully, hands in his pockets as he sauntered leisurely up the stairs. As he walked past, bartenders and underlings greeted him respectfully, addressing him as Master Ji. "Oh, what's wrong with our mighty CEO Li? Has the sun risen from the west? Drinking alone here?" Ji Ling Chen skillfully reached out and placed his hand on Li Sihan's shoulder. With a slightly raised corner of his mouth, he wore a teasing and roguish smile that was particularly alluring, like a male fox wagging its tail. Li Sihan was slightly tipsy at the moment. His narrow, peach blossom eyes swept lightly over the pig's trotter resting on his shoulder. His gaze was icy cold. "Ouch." Ji Ling Chen quickly withdrew his hand. "I say, cousin, we're brothers after all. How could you treat me like this?" Ji Ling Chen's cheeky expression made him look like he was asking for a beating. "Are you that free?" Li Sihan picked up the low-alcohol cocktail and downed it in one gulp, under the dazzling lights. The pink cocktail shimmered with a riot of colors, the man's well-defined knuckles appearing even more pronounced against the glass. His Adam's apple bobbed as his slender fingers tugged impatiently at his tie, revealing his collarbone. Ji Ling Chen, standing nearby, unconsciously swallowed hard at the sight. What a bewitching sight! His usually icy cousin, who dressed head to toe in black, earning him the private nickname Black Crow, hid such an alluring figure beneath that dark suit. Who would have thought, with such a fine physique, if he were a host at his bar, he'd absolutely be the star of the night scene. Ji Ling Chen was lost in wild fantasies about his cousin when he suddenly met the man's icy gaze. "Ji Ling Chen, cousin." Ji Ling Chen wiped the drool that nearly escaped the corner of his mouth. Although Li Sihan had no idea what was going through his cousin's mind, he was certain it was nothing good. "Ji Ling Chen, if you're so idle, I can tell grandfather that it's about time you settled down," Li Sihan said coolly, unmoved by Ji Ling Chen's pitiful gaze. "Don't, cousin, I was wrong," Ji Ling Chen immediately pleaded with a miserable expression. He knew his cousin always meant what he said. He doesn't want a blind date. He hasn't had enough fun yet. Li Sihan withdrew his gaze, in no mood to deal with this cousin. Picking up the cocktail from the booth, he lazily settled onto the sofa. His 1.85-meter frame sank into the couch, long legs occupying half the space. The man's sharply defined features appeared even more mysterious under the kaleidoscopic lights. While he usually exuded an icy aloofness that kept people at arm's length, there was now an alluring laziness about him. The man casually raised his glass, amber eyes glinting with fragmented light. "I think I've fallen for someone." Ji Ling Chen sat on the sofa and subconsciously replied, "Oh, wait, what?" Ji Ling Chen jumped up from the sofa like a duck. Meeting the man's icy gaze, Ji Ling Chen immediately lowered his voice and leaned close to Li Sihan's ear. "Have you fallen for someone?" The man on the sofa stared at his wine glass and muttered. "Yeah." That single word alone sent shockwaves through Ji Ling Chen. How astonishing. His blockhead cousin had actually fallen for a woman for the first time. "Cousin," Ji Ling Chen's slightly upturned peach blossom eyes sparkled with gossipy flames. "Who is that woman? I'm sure I can give you some advice." Li Sihan snapped out of his thoughts and looked at his unreliable younger cousin with skepticism. Sensing his cousin's distrust, Ji Ling Chen immediately jumped up. "Cousin, what's with that look? You still don't believe me? My title as Goddess Harvester wasn't earned for nothing." The love-struck rookie times Ji Ling Chen was displeased. Well, Li Sihan thought back to their high school days. This cousin of his did indeed use a highly deceptive face to date quite a few girlfriends. Trust comes and goes just like that. Li Sihan cleared his throat lightly. "I tested the waters a bit today, but she said she has no plans to date." "Why do you think that is?" Ji Ling Chen frowned. "Cousin, I don't think I've ever been rejected before, you know." No sooner had the words left his lips than Ji Ling Chen realized he'd misspoken. "Hey, cousin, don't walk away." At least let me finish. Ji Lingchen grabbed Li Sihan's arm. Under Li Sihan's deathly glare, Ji Lingchen had no choice but to let go. Cousin, if you still have any emotional issues, feel free to ask me. A vein twitched on Li Sihan's forehead. Li, President Li, Assistant Zhong glanced at Ji Lingchen from afar, wondering what this young master had said to the CEO again. Why does he look even worse than before going in for a drink? Drive back to Buyuan. Li Sihan sat in the car, irritably raising his hand to rub his temples. Buyuan was the villa where he currently lived alone, with no one else except the housekeeping aunt who came for daily cleaning. Yes, Assistant Zhong let out a sigh. The black Bentley roared as it sped down the highway. The vehicles in the front row all voluntarily made way. Li Sihan gazed at the neon lights in the distance, unsure of what emotions stirred in his heart. MC Entertainment Company, 33rd floor, CEO's office, Yao Yao. The recording has gained traction and is now trending. You should get ready. Yun Shuoro capitalized on the traffic from this trending topic on Weibo. Guan Yao deliberately styled herself to play the role of a white lotus, even skipping her favorite lipstick. Shuoro, do I look pitiful enough like this? Yun Shuoro carefully examined Guan Yao's makeup, pondered for a moment, and then shook her head. No, I don't think your current persona suits the white lotus path. Why? Guan Yao paused her movements, puzzled. That woman Yun Lanlan always puts on a pitiful look whenever she does something wrong. Anyone who doesn't know better would think someone owes her money. Chapter 17. Different trades, different ways. I wish her success. Yun Shuoro chuckled, then said earnestly, you're different from her. Your straightforward personality is what's winning fans right now, so just keep being yourself. Besides, pretending to be someone you're not isn't sustainable. Sooner or later, the truth will come out. At this point, Yun Shuoro narrowed her eyes slightly, a hint of coldness flashing through her amber pupils. She knew the true nature of Yun Lanlan and Su Meixia. Yun Lanlan's act of crying every time she made a mistake would eventually backfire. She would personally tear off Yun Lanlan's mask. Guan Yao nodded. So I should just be myself now. Yun Shuoro snapped back to reality. Exactly, just say what you're thinking now, after all. The facts are right here. Yun Lanlan can't escape them. Alright, Ru, I'll listen to you. Guan Yao immediately felt full of confidence, rolling up her sleeves in anticipation. Dealing with green TB asterisk keys and white lotuses is her specialty. Sure enough, just half an hour after the recording incident hit the trending searches, Yun Lanlan began to lose her composure, starting to control the comments and hire internet trolls. Fortunately, the recording is right here. And most people still side with Guan Yao. I always thought Yun Lanlan gave me a weird vibe, even though all the TV dramas she starred in were hits. I just couldn't like her. Now I know the reason. Are those above comments bought by Yun Lanlan's hired trolls? Come on, at least change your IP addresses. You're totally exposed. Speechless. Never expected her to be this kind of person. Feeling disgusted that I used to be her fan. Unfollowing immediately. Guan Yao felt her mood lift as she logged into her alternate account to check the comments under her Weibo post. Sister, don't be afraid, we Yao fans stand firmly by your side. Yao, keep going. Tears welled up in Guan Yao's eyes as she was deeply moved. Woo, Shuoro, I truly love my fans. I really love acting. But old Lady Guan said she was just a lowly actress who couldn't even grace a proper stage every time the family watched the TV dramas she acted in. Old Lady Guan would deliberately mock her and then turn off the TV, when shooting also secretly gloated on the side, echoing old Lady Guan's words. Yun Shuoro hugged her. It's okay, your brother and I have always been standing behind you. Guan Yao wiped her tears sheepishly. You mean Guan Shaoqing? That workaholic probably doesn't even know about the grievances I've suffered at home. Yun Shuoro sighed helplessly. In truth, Guan Yao was also very sensible, since their parents passed away. Guan Shaoqing, as the elder brother, had single-handedly shouldered the responsibility of the Guan group. As a result, those who had been eyeing the Guan group like tigers, eager to take a bite out of it, had no choice but to retract their fangs. At that time, even she, who was abroad, had heard that Guan Shaoqing was so busy he hadn't returned home for a month. Staying at the company instead. Alright, Yun Lanlan has already posted a clarification on Weibo, we can't just let her off the hook. Right, Yun Shuero winked at Guan Yao, millimeter. Guan Yao nodded vigorously. Yun Lanlan, I sincerely apologize for occupying public resources and everyone's time. I took director Zhong's script very seriously and truly loved this role. Perhaps it was because I loved the character too much that I accidentally said those words, which were then exploited by those with ulterior motives. I believe time will provide everyone with a satisfactory answer. Love to all my fans who have always stood firmly behind me. Yun Lanlan even pinned this Weibo post to the top of her profile, accompanying it once again with a photo of herself reading the script in the hospital while receiving an 4 drip. Guan Yao was instantly disgusted when she saw this. Alright. We can start preparing for the live stream now, let's make the most of this traffic. Yun Shuero finalized the decision, the assistant set up the equipment, and the live stream began. On the other side, Yun Lanlan no longer had her previous leisurely demeanor and was instead looking at her manager with a face full of tension. Sister Hua, what should we do now? Sister Hua's eyes darted around as she pulled out a device. Go into Guan Yao's live stream and interact directly. Have your fans swarm in, then act pitiful during the stream. Yun Lanlan rolled her eyes impatiently. What a bunch of idiots. What's the use of these fans? They don't even help when it matters. As she spoke, she skillfully applied a natural, no makeup look to herself. As soon as she entered the livestream room, Yun Lanlan's eyes turned red. Yao Yao, I've always considered you my best friend. How could you stab me in the back like this? And I've loved the script for Red Bean in the Republic of China for so long. Why did you suddenly snatch it away? Guan Yao looked utterly bewildered. What? This is pure fearmongering. How did Yun Lanlan suddenly change her attitude like this? Everyone burst into laughter at Guan Yao's genuinely confused expression. Bullet comments, she could have just slapped you. But instead she accepted your false accusation with that clueless look. Ha ha ha, I'm dying. Yun Lanlan can't even act, her performance is so fake it's painful. I heard Yun Lanlan didn't even graduate from an acting program. How does she have the nerve to say she loves acting? Guan Yao, different professions are like mountains apart. I wish her success. Guan Yao considered herself very generous, having sincerely wished her well. The haters shouldn't have anything to say now. Right, Guan Yao thought it was simple. But she didn't expect her remarks to unintentionally attract fans. During the half-hour livestream, Guan Yao kept delivering golden quotes. Just before ending the broadcast, a group of fans couldn't bear to part, howling in protest. Sis, don't end the stream yet. Teach us more about how to clap back at green tea girls. Sorry, I have to go offline now. Thanks for your support. Sending love. Guan Yao made a heart gesture with her hands. Turning off the device, Yun Shuero looked at Guan Yao with a face full of smiles. Yao Yao, you're amazing. Do you know, you gained 500,000 followers directly from this livestream. Guan Yao opened Weibo in disbelief, and indeed, her follower count had surpassed 10 million. 10 million followers. Shuero, I did it. Guan Yao was so excited she was almost in tears. She genuinely loves acting and deeply cares about her fans. Looking back at Weibo now, the platform is flooded with criticism directed at Yun Lanlan. Even director Zhong, who had remained silent all along, specifically posted on Weibo, briefly explaining the events of that day, effectively confirming Yun Lanlan's misconduct. Seeing this, other actors also took to Weibo to voice their opinions. Yun Lanlan looked at everything before her, especially how her Weibo score had suddenly plummeted, and the comments under her pinned post were all filled with insults. Terrified, she didn't dare to open Weibo. Brother Jinyan Yun Lanlan threw herself into her fiancé's arms, her eyes slightly red with sadness, but for some reason, as Jiang Jinyan looked at the woman before him, he no longer felt the same flutter in his heart, only irritation. Okay, be good, baby. I'll have my secretary arrange for some online supporters in a moment. Yun Lanlan gritted her teeth and said, No, Brother Jinyan, didn't you invest in the drama Red Bean in the Republic of China? Can you pull some strings and get me the role of the second female lead? Upon hearing this, Jiang Jinyan instinctively furrowed his brows. Chapter 18. the secret base of the Two Little Buns. From the very beginning, when director Zhong was seeking investment for this major production, he never considered the Jiang family. Instead, he consistently reached out to the entertainment company under the Tianhui Group. I'm just riding on the coattails of the big shots, following behind them to get a taste of the spoils. Wanting to freely insert people into the mix is simply impossible, and it might even result in losing the hard-earned shares I've invested, in just an instant. Jiang Jinyan had already considered all the twists and turns in his mind, but a gentle smile still appeared on his face. Lan, you know, ever since your sister caused that scene at our engagement party last time, I've been marked by Li Sihan. Now he's targeting me at every turn, suppressing the Jiang family. So I'm in a very difficult position right now. Jiang Jinyan lied without batting an eye or showing any guilt. After all, this excuse was readily available. And it was enough to fool Yun Lanlan for now. That bitch Yun Shuoro. Yun Lanlan was seething with hatred, her eyes red with fury. By the way, didn't you say last time that you wanted to deal with Yun Shuoro? How's the plan coming along? Jiang Jinyan asked casually, pretending it was just a passing thought. After all, she was once his fiancée, and he hadn't even gotten his hands on her yet. Jiang Jinyan was very confident in himself. Yun Shuoro was just a single mother with 2 illegitimate children, returning to the country with burdens in tow. No other man would want her either. As long as he gave her 5,000 yuan every month, Yun Shuoro's man would surely regard him as a great benefactor. Yun Lanlan gritted her teeth. That bitch Yun Shuoro simply won't take the bait. My mother personally called to ask her to move back into the Yun family villa, but she actually hung up right away. Jiang Jinyan realized things weren't so simple. Why, isn't the Yun family villa better than the slums she lived in abroad? TCH. Yun Lanlan rolled her eyes disdainfully, crossing her legs as she lounged on the sofa. I had someone follow her last time. She and those 2 bastards are living in the most run-down slum in the capital, and it's just a cheap public housing unit. Yun Lanlan admired her freshly manicured nails. That shabby place, I wouldn't even set foot there. Wouldn't want to dirty my new high heels. Tilda. After learning about Yun Shuoro's situation, Jiang Jinyan had no patience to comfort Yun Lanlan and made up a flimsy excuse to leave. Head to the slums. Jiang Jinyan ordered the driver with a frown. If it weren't for that woman, he would never have gone to that godforsaken place. The poor should just stay in the garbage heap and remain poor for the rest of their lives. Half an hour later, a black luxury car stopped in the poorest part of the capital. The alley was narrow and dark, barely wide enough for one person's shoulders, yet it housed countless families in such a cramped space. You could even hear the sounds from every household, children wailing at the top of their lungs, and drunken men beating their wives. The moment Jiang Jinyan appeared, he immediately drew the attention of everyone in the alley. Every pair of eyes that turned toward Jiang Jinyan held a mix of curiosity and greed. Each person fantasizing that this noble man had come looking for them. Suppressing the urge to leave, Jiang Jinyan wore a look of disdain as he walked toward the little boy who was staring at him in a daze. Uncle will give you candy. Do you know where Yun Shuoro lives? The little boy stared at the candy in the man's hand, immediately drooling, and reached out his grubby hands to snatch it directly. Jiang Jinyan was so disgusted that he simply threw the entire bag of candy to the boy. With a look of disdain, he surveyed the scene before him, and the thought of Yun Shuoro living in such a place brought him a sense of satisfaction. If Yun Shuoro had been a bit more agreeable, he wouldn't have minded buying her an apartment in the capital. Mr. Jiang, there's a child over there, should we go ask her? The driver behind him suddenly pointed to a little girl standing deep in the alley. Jiang Jinyan was growing impatient, thinking to himself, what little girl could possibly be worth his personal attention? And surely, just like that little boy from earlier, she'd be covered in filth, until his impatient gaze fell upon the little girl, and a flicker of surprise flashed in Jiang Jinyan's eyes. Deep in the alley, the little girl wore a pink dress with an oversized bow tied at the back, white leather shoes studded with diamonds, and held a doll in her arms. Her skin was fair, and her eyes blinked like grapes. She was utterly beautiful, exuding an air of exquisite refinement from head to toe, even wealthier than some children in the imperial capital. Jiang Jinyan wore his signature smile, looking as warm as a spring breeze, a tactic that usually worked wonders for him. So this time, he confidently stepped forward. "Little girl, do you live here? Uncle will give you candy. Do you know where Yunshuero lives?" Just as Jiang Jinyan thought the little girl would gratefully accept the candy, a sharp pain suddenly shot through his hand. A silver-white needle was inserted into his hand, probably hitting an acupoint. Hiss! Jiang Jinyan glared at the girl with a grim expression. Bai Shui tightly pursed her lips, calmly withdrew the needle, and sneered, "Don't worry, you won't die." Jiang Jinyan's face turned completely cold as he glared at the little girl with hostility. "I'm warning you. If you honestly tell me where Yunshuero lives, I might let today's matter slide, but if you continue to be this stubborn, don't blame me for targeting your entire family." Jiang Jinyan crouched down, a cold smirk playing at the corners of his mouth as he revealed his true colors. "Where do your parents work? How about I get them all fired? What do you think of that?" Bai Shui lowered her head, wondering how Aunt Yun had managed to provoke such trash during her trip back to the country. As she pondered how to teach this man a proper lesson, Jiang Jinyan smugly assumed the little girl before him was terrified. "You." Before he could finish speaking, the little girl suddenly looked up, her large round eyes welling with silent tears as she choked back sobs. "Uncle, please spare my parents. I'll lead the way for you right now." Jiang Jinyan smirked triumphantly and followed without hesitation. "Mr. Jiang, should I go after them?" the driver stepped forward to ask. Jiang Jinyan shook his head with full confidence. No need, he was even planning to have a romp with Yunshuero. How could he let someone else ruin his fun? Beside them, Bai Shui's eyes darted around as she secretly pressed a button in her hand. The doll she was holding flashed a red light in its eyes. Jiang Jinyan swaggered after Bai Shui into the alley. 10 minutes later, after turning several corners and passing through countless alleys, Jiang Jinyan suddenly stopped impatiently. "Hey! What kind of trick are you playing on me?" Bai Shui stopped and turned to look at the man. "Uncle, we're here," she said, pointing to a drab grey house in front of them. "Are you lying to me?" Jiang Jinyan didn't believe it and stood by the window, trying to see inside clearly, but it was pitch black inside, and nothing could be seen at all. "Uncle, come in, I'll treat you to some tea." Bai Shui opened the door. Chapter 19, Planning a Grand Scheme. Jiang Jinyan glared at her and walked into the room. The moment he stepped inside, the door suddenly slammed shut. A minute later, a man's scream suddenly echoed through the house. A bucket of dog blood suddenly poured from the sky, drenching Jiang Jinyan from head to toe. The sticky, foul-smelling blood covered his designer suit, leaving it reeking horribly. "Come out right now. I won't let you get away with this." Jiang Jinyan snarled with a face full of malice. A blur flashed before his eyes, a fleeting figure, but when he tried to chase after it, the person had already vanished. Bai Shui curled her lips in disdain, glancing back at the man raging helplessly behind her. She leaped out the window, triggered a hidden mechanism, and watched as an ordinary-looking bookshelf slowly swung open, revealing an entirely different scene beyond. Snow White walked in holding the doll, climbed onto the chair, and turned on the computer. A familiar face appeared in the video. It was Xiao Mo and Xiao Yu, Snow White. "Have you found that scumbag fiancé who abandoned my mom?" Xiao Mo and Xiao Yu frowned with unhappy expressions on their little faces. They were just accompanying their classmates to kindergarten. Although they found it boring, they still attended seriously to reassure their mommy. Snow White stiffened her little face and took out the only photo of Yunshuero and Jiang Jinyan. "Isn't this the photo you stole from Aunt Yun? I remember. That scumbag fiancé is the man who came to see Aunt Yun today. She had a photographic memory and definitely wouldn't remember it wrong." Bai Shui waved her fists, her face filled with righteous indignation. Still feeling that the previous punishment wasn't enough, might as well just pour 2 buckets of dog blood directly. "Bai Shui, I've already finished writing the program just now and sent it to you. Did you see it?" Xiao Mo took out a miniature notebook and sat in the kindergarten security room. Since it was noon, the teachers and children at the kindergarten had gone for their nap, leaving very few people around. Xiao Yu sat on the chair, swinging his short legs because he was too small. He had a lollipop in his mouth and was wearing an Ultraman pajama. His chubby little hands were typing rapidly on the keyboard. In just 10 minutes, the little chubby boy tugged at his brother's sleeve. Brother Tilda, the program is ready. Send it to Sister Snow White quickly so she can deal with that person who bullied Mommy. Xiaoyu was furious, her chubby little face scrunched up in anger. Xiaomo stroked his chin, then resent the virus their master had previously given them to Baishue. Don't worry, we'll definitely help Mommy get revenge. Far away at the company, Yun Shuoro remained completely unaware of everything her two sons were doing, let alone that these seemingly adorable children were actually hacking geniuses. Yun Shuoro had never told these two little buns about how her scumbag ex-fiancé had broken off their engagement and personally sent her to another man's bed, so naturally, she assumed they didn't know about Jiang Jinyan's existence. But in reality, Xiaoyu and Xiaomo had long known just how despicable Jiang Jinyan's actions were toward their mommy. You mean Uncle Lu? I haven't seen him in so long, I really miss him. Hearing his brother mention their master, Xiaoyu immediately lowered his head. Swinging his little short legs in disappointment, Xiaomo patted his younger brother's head to comfort him. Don't worry, Uncle Lu already told me, once Mommy settles down, he'll return to the country and reunite with us. Hearing this news, Xiaoyu finally cheered up, after receiving the virus. Bai Shui exited the video chat interface. Turning on the room's camera, she saw Jiang Jinyan flailing around like a headless fly, smashing anything he could get his hands on. But this was the secret base of her and those two scheming troublemakers, Yun Xiaoyu and Yun Xiaomo. How could it possibly be so easy to escape? Bai Shui implanted the virus into Jiang Jinyan's phone through the house's Wi-Fi. In just 10 minutes, the phone would overload and eventually explode. Get the fuck out here, believe it or not. I'll blow this place to hell when I get out. Jiang Jinyan's eyes were bloodshot, his rage having completely destroyed his rationality. He never imagined that a grown man like him would fall for the tricks of some little girl who wasn't even fully developed. Jiang Jinyan vented his helpless rage for 10 minutes but still couldn't get out. The seemingly ordinary windows and doors had secretly been reinforced with national-grade steel. Without a power drill, there was absolutely no way out. Panting heavily, Jiang Jinyan leaned against the wall when suddenly his gaze swept across something, and a hint of manic smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. There was actually a camera installed on the ceiling light. Clearly, someone on the other side was watching him in his current state of helpless rage. Jiang Jinyan frantically dragged a chair over, stood on it, and swung a hammer at the camera, just as the hammer was about to strike. The phone in Jiang Jinyan's pocket suddenly exploded. With a loud boom, the phone suddenly emitted white smoke, followed by a strong smell of burning. Jiang Jinyan was startled and fell off the chair with a loud clatter. Damn it, Jiang Jinyan took out his phone, trying to call his bodyguard to pick him up. But the phone was completely useless now. Bai Shui was live-streaming the current situation to the two little ones at the kindergarten. How about that? Did we get some payback for Aunt Yunyun? Bai Shui crossed her arms, her lips slightly pursed, a hint of mischief gleaming in her beautiful almond-shaped eyes. Sister Bai Shui, thank you for today. Next time you come to my house, I'll treat you to ice cream, Tilda. Xiaoyu extended her chubby little finger. Only one though. Or your tummy will hurt if you eat too many. Because Yun Shuoro didn't allow them to eat too many snacks like ice cream, the two little buns were also very sensible. Bai Shui pouted her lips, pretending not to care. Whatever, Tilda. Bye-bye, Sister Bai Shui. Tilda, Xiaoyu and Xiaomo waved their hands. Goodbye. After hanging up the video, Bai Shui sat quietly in the secret room, enjoying the miserable state of Jiang Jinyan under the surveillance camera. Serves you right for bullying Aunt Yunyun. It wasn't until 3 a.m. that Jiang Jinyan finally managed to escape from that house. The moment the front door could be opened, Jiang Jinyan was almost moved to tears. His emotions shifting from initial rage to submission. Before turning to leave, Jiang Jinyan took one last deep look at the place that had brought him nightmares. Only one thought remained in his heart: he would never come back, never return here to find Yun Shuoro again. What being kept, what one-night stand. It was all long gone like fleeting clouds. The night was cool as water. Yun Shuoro lay on the sofa reviewing reports, planning a grand strategy, starting with Yun Lanlan. Hey, you go out on my behalf. no matter the cost, get Yun Lanlan signed to MC for me." The boss on the other end immediately nodded. "Understood, Miss Yun. I'll contact Yun Lanlan right away." MC Entertainment was a company that suddenly rose to prominence 5 years ago, advancing triumphantly and breaking through the ranks of established entertainment firms. Not only does MC Entertainment have abundant resources, but it also maintains close collaborations with various television stations. Countless celebrities in the entire imperial capital dream of signing under MC's name. When Yun Lanlan received the news, she could hardly believe it. Signing with MC was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for her. Chapter 20, Undercover Agent Manager. "Sister Hua, agree to it for me right now," Yun Lanlan said excitedly. "As long as I can sign with MC, I'll definitely be able to crush that bitch Guan Yao." Yun Lanlan's eyes sparkled with ambition and greed. She would seize all of Guan Yao's resources when the time came. Sister Hua's mind raced, and she deliberately made a demand. "Oh, Yun Lanlan, now that you've got a bright future ahead, what's to become of me, your agent?" Yun Lanlan gritted her teeth, knowing Sister Hua wouldn't let her off so easily. "So, Sister Hua, what do you want? I'm going to MC Entertainment too." Sister Hua seized the opportunity to make her demand. "How could I possibly take you there, Sister Hua? You still have a labor contract with the company. If you want to terminate it, you'll have to pay a hefty penalty." On the other end of the line, Sister Hua sneered. "Of course, you'll be the one to pay for me. If you leave alone, I can't guarantee I won't spill the beans about what you've done in the past. Don't forget, I have plenty of dirt on you." Yun Lanlan angrily hung up the phone. 10 million, a full 10 million in liquidated damages. Where on earth could she get that kind of money? Yun Lanlan sighed and unhappily sought out Su Meixia at the beauty salon. "Mom Tilda, please help me. You know I don't have any money right now." Yun Lanlan cooed, clinging to Su Meixia's arm. Su Meixia was wearing a facial mask. "Didn't I give you some money for your birthday recently? And the betrothal gifts from the Jiang family are also in your hands." Yun Lanlan pouted. "Mom, don't even mention it. Do you know how difficult Jinyan has been this year? That Li Sihan has been deliberately suppressing brother Jinyan, and now his company has suffered significant losses. He even asked to borrow money from me last time." At the mention of Jiang Jinyan, a blissful smile appeared on Yun Lanlan's face. Hearing this, Su Meixia was so shocked that her mask fell off, and she gasped, "Lanlan, that's 100 million yuan." She had gone through great difficulty to secure this from Mrs. Jiang. Even enduring her sarcastic remark about selling her daughter, who would have thought her daughter would turn around and lend the money to the Jiang family, Yun Lanlan noticed Su Meixia's displeasure and immediately pouted. "Mom, what do you mean by this? Brother Jinyan is already working so hard. Can we not pressure him anymore? Please just let me marry into the Jiang family." Su Meixia felt a headache coming on. Back then, she had been Yun Zhenchuan's mistress. Not only taking advantage to make money but also getting pregnant to secure her place in the Yun family. "You silly child." Su Meixia had no choice but to regret it. Yun Lanlan reached out her hand, pouting unhappily. "Mom, 10 million. All right, here you go." Although it pained her, Su Meixia gave the money readily. Holding the bank card, Yun Lanlan felt delighted. "Mom, where did you get so much money?" Neither the mother nor the daughter holds any shares in the Yun family, so their only source of money is from Yun Zhenchuan. "You don't get it, do you? It's from that woman Shui Ya." Su Meixia admired her newly done manicure with pride. 5 years ago, I took the inheritance Shui Ya left for Yun Shuoro. She still doesn't know about it to this day. Mom Tilda, you're so good to me." Yun Lanlan hugged Su Meixia and happily went off to pay Sister Hua's penalty fee with the 10 million. The moment the money was transferred to the account, Sister Hua stood respectfully before Yun Shuoro to report. "Miss Yun, the matter has been taken care of." Yun Shuoro looked at the additional 10 million in her bank card, a cold smile playing at the corners of her lips. "It's fine. I'll make them slowly spit out everything they swallowed back then. All right, you may leave now. Keep watching and report to me promptly if anything comes up." Yun Shuoro put away the bank card. "Yes, rest assured. Miss Yun, I will handle everything properly." Sister Hua respectfully exited the study. letting out a disdainful sneer at the thought of Yoon Lanlan's foolish appearance. To be honest, the job assigned by Miss Yoon didn't require a top player like her to take action. If people observed more carefully, they would notice that this seemingly chubby agent's eyebrows and eyes were identical to those of the current cold-eyed beauty assassin, Lung Lwon. Lung Lwon opened the window, flipped out, and leaped onto the rooftops. When she returned to the company and faced Yoon Lanlan, she reverted to being the chubby agent's sister Hua again. At the entrance of MC Entertainment, Mr. Jiang, we truly apologize, but since you don't have an appointment, we really can't let you in, the receptionist said softly but firmly. Jiang Jinyan glared at the person before him with bloodshot eyes, his expression dark. Call your boss out here, I want to see for myself. Since when do two mere guard dogs of a company have this much authority? Jiang Jinyan roared. MC is now the most famous entertainment company in the entire capital, holding TV drama copyrights from Hong Kong and overseas, with an extremely wide range of business operations. If they could secure a contract with MC, the Jiang Group stood to make a substantial profit. However, the crux is that MC collaborates with numerous companies. The capital is a place where crouching tigers and hidden dragons abound. A mere Jiang family is hardly noteworthy, and naturally, MC doesn't spare Jiang Jinyan any face. They barred him at the entrance without hesitation. President Jiang, isn't that Miss Yoon? The driver suddenly widened his eyes, pointing with a trembling hand at the woman emerging from the CEO's private elevator. Jiang Jinyan instinctively turned his head. He saw a slender woman in a fiery red halter dress stepping out of the elevator wearing sunglasses, exuding an overwhelming presence. Yoon Shuero. Jiang Jinyan's eyes widened in disbelief. Yoon Shuero was descending the elevator, planning to pick up the two little buns from kindergarten, when she suddenly heard someone call her name. Turning her head, her beautiful almond-shaped eyes filled with unmistakable disdain and disgust, as if she had seen something filthy. The woman turned around. And Jiang Jinyan was absolutely certain that the woman before him was none other than Yoon Shuero, whom he had been desperately searching for all this time. Jiang Jinyan rushed forward and grabbed the woman's hand fiercely, as if provoked. Yoon Shuero, how dare you show up here? How could a woman who lost her chastity and brought two illegitimate children with unknown fathers appear in such a high-class place, especially in MC, where even he couldn't get in? Yoon Shuero was just about to raise her hand to slap this idiot, but Jiang Jinyan suddenly seemed to understand everything. "Ha, I knew it, you shameless woman. Couldn't stand being alone for long, could you? Just back in the country and already clinging to a man." Jiang Jinyan felt a surge of jealousy, envy for the man who could afford to keep her. Yoon Shuero couldn't take it anymore. She raised her foot and kicked the man hard in his vulnerable spot. Ah! Jiang Jinyan was in so much pain that tears welled up in his eyes. He let go of Yoon Shuero's wrists and clutched his lower body tightly. Thank you for watching. This is a long novel titled 5 Years Later, The Genius Hacker Baby Blows Up Daddy. If you'd like to see more, please leave a comment saying, "Looking forward to the next part," or give the video a like. I'll update based on your feedback. See you next time.